Hello everyone, this video is intended to be a brief look at Pelikan's M800 green demonstrator from 2023. Now if this one looks familiar and you're getting a sense of deja vu, that's because Pelikan also released a green demonstrator in 1992. That doesn't mean that they're the exact same pen, as there are some differences. Let's start with some of the most basic of them, and those would be the generational differences. We all know that Pelikan got rid of one chick in the nest around 2003. They changed the cap tops of their Souveron models in 2010. So what we now have are these kind of gold-plated, 24-karat gold-plated cap tops featuring the current company logo. That's compared with the prior cap top from the older model, which was this kind of stamped medallion, which featured the two-chick logo. That's probably the biggest generational difference. There's still the plated beak clip here. That really hasn't changed any. I guess perhaps the biggest change you can see between the two is the trim or furniture of this model. And you see two cap bands here and two bands at the piston knob. That's been standard Souveron fare since the late 1980s. That does differ from the original though, and I have the original here from 1992. You can see that the original was separated two distinct bands with a little piece of material, a little piece of metal there in between, kind of along the circumference, and that's what connected the two, and that's what allowed it to embed into the resin. Same thing down here at the piston knob. So it gave us that two band appearance, that two trim ring appearance that is the definition of a Souveron. Pelikan has done something different with the new model. It's kept that same kind of style, that same kind of look, but it's now all one piece. And so you have two very polished bands, and in the middle is a very kind of matte or almost like satin finish piece of metal, which allows the separation and distinction between the two polished bands. There's, between the old model and new model, the wording's a little bit different on the cap band, and the newer model, the wording's actually larger and a little bit stronger in terms of its striking, so it just stands out a little bit more. I don't mind the look of this material, the new material. It definitely still conveys that Souveron feel, just in a different way. However, what's different here is that it seems to be glued into place. The band seems to be glued into place, and I'm just not sure the durability of that. I'm sure it will be durable for a period of time, but I have seen Epic models, for instance, that have the cap band glued into place, where over the years the band has come loose. So I guess we'll just have to see over time how that fares. There's also a little lip here that you can kind of feel where the ring here at the piston knob interfaces with the actual piston knob itself. There's just the tiniest little bit of a lip that was not present on the prior model, so just a little kind of difference in design. The piston assembly, the mechanism's the exact same. Instead of an opaque clear seal, this one is a black seal. The nibs are essentially the same. They're both 18 karat two-toned rhodium plated nibs, with pretty standard for Pelikan. The green is pretty attractive, you know, definitely grabs you. One thing that does grab you about this model is they've redesigned the inner cap, so you get a much better view of the nib when the pen is capped, but it doesn't really change the overall color. They've been able to keep the color fairly consistent throughout when the pen is capped, which I appreciate. But definitely when you have them side by side, you can tell there are generational differences and how they're designing the inner cap these days. And I think a lot of that owes to the new inner cap being much thinner than the older one. So that's, you know, another difference to note. Now, are these differences really a game changer if you look at these two side by side? No, none of them are, you know, earth-shattering. They do a little bit to separate the pens, so clearly you can tell one from the other. But if you had an older one, would you need to run out and get the newer one? No, not necessarily. I don't think there's really enough there to separate the two. But if you like green demonstrators, then certainly you could do a lot worse than the new 2023 M800 green demonstrator from Pelikan. So that's just been a brief look at this new model.